All right, mate. It says we're live. I have no idea where we're showing up live, but our first live mentoring session. How cool is that?
It's awesome.
Let's just suss out here. We should be on LinkedIn.
Hello to all those beautiful people eating their lunch. All those East Coast mid-afternooners as well.
It says Dave Clare is live right now. Look at that. Sensational.
This is sensational.
Mate, there you go. All right. So we're live. I don't know how many people will be joining in at this stage or what the rate people will be joining at it or if anybody will. But nonetheless, we said we'd do this one live. So I've got it here on my phone in case stuff comes up. Yeah, I might turn the volume down on that so we're not getting back chat.
I just heard myself.
Yeah, and what a stunning voice. So, mate, so here we are. Like last week, we had an epic session. We said, "Gosh, we should be recording these," and then it was decided that, well, if we're going to record them, why wouldn't we just put them live and then see if anyone else wants to join in or participate or anything like that? So here we are on our very first live stream. Yeah, so we've got the kids.
Why not?
And Mr. Stark live here on LinkedIn, Facebook, I believe. Even on YouTube, we might be live, mate. We've just gone live everywhere.
First live show, Spidey and Mr. Starkey. This is cool. I mean, like we were saying last week, I feel like this whole period over the past sort of nine months now, heading across the whole year, I feel like it's provided the opportunity for little pockets of connection like this, and like you said, who knows if anyone else will jump on and get involved. But I've been really enjoying the mentoring sessions that, like you mentioned at the start of this, and if you're open to it, I've got a couple of I wouldn't say curveballs, but questions here that I'm keen to jump into. So I mean, the first.
Just before we get too started, we got Professor Gary's jumped in, so we have the most astute and well-educated leader in all of Australia watching us, mate. So,
Professor Gary, hello. I haven't met in person yet, but I'm looking forward to it at some point.
Well, we'll make that happen, mate.
Definitely.
So, throw some curveballs. Let's go.
Let's do it. So, for those that don't know, Dave and I have been doing some mentoring lately. I'm working through the book Simplified at the moment as well, which has been epic, full of a lot of introspective, epic internal questions as well. And one of those actually has been around the lead structure chapter. I've just been working through that at the moment, and a question that came up for me was from your COOL model, or the circle of organizational leadership, and I'm curious from your point of view in terms of the role that collaboration between other businesses or between businesses themselves plays heading into the future as well. Like, what are your thoughts on that, sort of flowing off from that model?
Yeah, certainly. So the circle of organizational leadership, the way it's set up, is to be a collaborative leadership model to start with, right? And then once again, whether that's your organization or other organizations in your ecosystem, because it is an ecosystem, not an ecosystem, right? So the first thing to understand that it's moving away from building an ecosystem where I'm the boss, you report to me, to building an ecosystem where we're all here for the greater good, which leads to the concept of collaboration, because I find a lot of people talk about collaboration today, Sean, and they're really, they're saying, oh, we want to collaborate, or we value collaboration. And my question is always, what does collaboration mean to you? Is it just a new wanky word for teamwork or working together? Or do you really understand what collaboration is? And most times we get the answer that it is, it's kind of like a more advanced version of working together. And I'll loop around this to answer your question about working with other organizations, because this is the important part. From a collaboration point of view, okay, that collaboration, true collaboration, can only happen when logos and egos are off the table and nobody gives a crap who gets the credit. That we're all here for the greater good. So you can cooperate, have co-opetition with other people in your industry, whatever, that you're working together. But if you really want to collaborate, it shouldn't really make a difference who gets the credit. So you can partner up with other organizations to do something. And I challenge businesses today. Like my philosophy for circle leadership, for example, is very fundamentally built on the circle of organizational leadership. Is I focus on what we do best, and I outsource the rest. I would collaborate with an HR organization. I would collaborate with an accounting firm. I would collaborate with an IT firm. I would collaborate with a social media firm. I don't need to have a team of HR people. I don't need a team of accountants or a team of social media team in our organization. It's not what we do best. So I would build an ecosystem where they would support us, support our clients, and collaborate together for the greater good of our clients. But then also I might use their services, they'll use mine. So it's building that ecosystem. So I can take that circle of organization and use it on the outside as well as I can on the inside.
That's been awesome, just in terms of what we've talked about over the past couple of months around collaboration and what you just said there again has been a common theme in terms of being able to put the ego aside, the self-interest aside for the common good. And I love the thought of that. And I feel like that's when I'm at one of those high energy wavelengths is when you connect to someone, whether it's another organization or just another person that is interested in a common purpose that I'm interested in as well. And at the end of the day, the conversation of credit and that sort of thing doesn't even come into it. Like that's when I feel like,
that collaboration.
One of the moments. Yeah, totally.
And
totally.
Professor Gary just added in there, he said collaboration often also used to end a partnership that didn't work out too. So we will continue to collaborate. And it's important to understand, collaboration is just a really popular word right now. So really get to the pure essence of if we're going to talk about collaborating with somebody, then make sure you're very clear on what we mean by that sense of collaboration. And there's nothing wrong with that. Say if we're going to work together, you're going to get the credit for this, I'm going to get the credit for that, they're going to get the name on this, we're going to get our name on that. That's fine. Just don't call it collaboration in my books. Let's just work together to achieve our own individual outcomes. And you take your credit and I'll take mine. And
do you have?
Sorry.
I was just going to ask. Do you have any sort of recent examples of collaboration that you've experienced or that you've seen from like a business point of view that you've been impressed by or you've admired?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I'll give you an example of one that I've challenged a group of businesses on to collaborate together. Now, I think but probably the easiest way, like clustering, is where collaboration comes into a place where organizations choose to cluster. Right. So the concept of clustering is, getting similar businesses all together to create a destination point to attract everyone and then let everybody fight for it when it gets here. So let's all collaborate to bring everybody here for the greater good, and then we'll all fight for our, if you go to like Tasmania, Salamanca, in Hobart in the harbor in there, and they've got, probably like 20 bars and restaurants all side by each. So they all lined up together and said, let's create a destination point in Salamanca in Hobart there and get everyone to come in here and then let everyone find the thing. So they're all collaborating to create that, to come together. Now there's a regional town here, a regional city town in West Australia here that I used to live in. I won't name Geraldton's name, but for example, and really talking to some people up in
Heart of the Midwest.
Yeah, heart of the Midwest, absolutely. Can you imagine, with all this, with the borders being shut and all this stuff happening right now, Shawnee, where we've got, people traveling all around the state and everything like that. And so if we all, and we want them all to come up to Geraldton and experience all the amazing that the heart of the Midwest has in that. Can you imagine if we took every restaurant, tourism, bar, hotel, there'd be like 600 or more of those establishments in the Midwest. In Geraldton, even Calgary, Dongra, right? If you put them all together. And if each one of them just chipped in $50 into Facebook advertising or whatever, all of a sudden we'd have $30,000 to spend to promote everyone to come to our region. So for $50 a month, you can have the buying power of 30,000 if we just got everyone to participate, for an example. If everyone just chipped in, and let's collaborate, and for the greater good of Geraldton, let's get everybody to come here.
Why isn't it happening?
I'm not in charge of that.
It's an epic idea. Like it is. Well, I mean, do you feel like it's a untried idea? Do you feel like it's been explored in that sense? Like not just in that particular situation, but
I think that
across
people
different
have explored
industries.
it, but I think once again, egos and logos get in the way, mate. So certain people's egos and that, like, I don't want to partner with those people and that, like, if we're all here for the greater good, let's just make this place humming and pumping every day of the week and let's just do it.
But that
And even when the boys do, people do to get them to come back again, and because everyone will have traveled WA to death. But if we could do some really smart campaign, you don't have to spend all 30,000 on Facebook ads or whatever. But we could certainly do some really cool video productions and do whatever, and we all just chip in together. But logos and egos will get in the way all the time.
yeah.
Now I know there's some small pockets and
who's
people
going to
doing
be
some
the
great work
face?
in that space. Yeah, and and there's some really great things. And just please don't anyone in the Midwest. This is not picking on anybody in the Midwest about it. There's a whole bunch of people doing some amazing stuff there too, right? They are collaborating and different things. I'm just thinking, could we do it on a greater scale? I guess is what I'm asking. Imagine if we could collaborate on that scale.
Totally.
What a region! It could be Bunbury. It could be. It doesn't matter. Like the Southwest. It could be the glamour region of the Southwest. Kalgoorlie Goldfields, whatever. I don't know. Like if from a regional perspective, it doesn't matter. I was just picking on Geraldton because I'm from there. But the same thing applies to any place, right? So, and if you bring that down into a granular level now, so that's looking at your organization, relationships, larger community scale collaboration. Let's bring it into our own organization. One of my clients that I had once, we were working with the Circle organizational leadership on. We were just rolling it out into their business. The general manager and the sales manager were getting together to talk about this $10 million deal that they're working on. Now, it sounds very big, but they do some of these reasonable large contract deals. And they're talking about, how to best set up their pitch for this particular for client. I think it was like a $10 million contract. Don't hold me to the exact number, but it was a big one. And I said, oh, this is cool. When you think about it for the Circle of Organizational Leadership, so we had the two core leaders, the sales manager, general manager, all mucking around with this, and it was great. So, will any of the people in the expediting or anyone in the express thing or anybody in safety or anybody in the truck driving or anybody in that be involved in the work that's being done here? Oh, yeah, once we land the contract, they'll have to do it. So have we landed these types of contracts before? Absolutely. Do you think that those people might have some intelligence or information to bring back there that could add value to this? And because the other ones are going to have to do the work. And that they could actually, if we got them to sit at the table and got power and information together in that circle and created another temporary circle that had, a person from each of the roles that would be impacted, plus the sales manager, general manager, and get all the feedback, and we'd have power and information coexisting at the same table. Do you think that we could all collaborate for the greater good of the business so that every area has a say and input and we could win? And then they actually went and brought a whole bunch of people together and landed a major contract.
That's epic. That is really cool. That is really cool. And even within that model that you're talking about, or that system or that process, something that's been a revelation just reading the book still, that I'm sharing with every Tom and Harry that I come into contact with since I read it, was the fact of, or the idea of reporting to something, not someone. And I know this isn't directly linked with collaboration, but it is in a way as well, because at the end of the day,
mate, it's the core of collaboration. Come on, it's the core of it.
Well, it's challenging. Yeah, it's challenging us to think and inevitably behave in different ways within organizations too, which I reckon is awesome, because for everyone at every level to have have some sight, have a clear sight of that customer centric purpose, that's been huge. Like, I think, and it makes so much more sense in whatever industry you look at, or whatever venture you look at, profit, not for profit, whatever it might be. Like, it's awesome. It's It's been really good.
So you've really picked up on that, which is really cool, mate. And so that public sense of purpose, that customer-centric purpose, is that not the greater good? Is that not why we should all be here? Like, if the organization that you work in, if this one division or department is interested in saying, well, no, we need to do this because it makes our area look good, but it might not help the overall area, therefore it doesn't help the overall client. But hey, our area is going to look awesome.
Yeah,
that's not for the greater good. They might say, well, hey, we might have to take a hit here for here to make sure that this happens so that the client wins. Because in that concept of the circle of organizational leadership, where everybody has a direct line of sight to the purpose through the lens of the values, that everybody answers to something first, not to somebody, right? That the best idea wins, not the boss's idea. And when we get that power and information coexisting at the same time, this way the best idea wins, right? And then also, in you link from the the ecosystem to an ecosystem, you're looking at like people want coaches today. We've talked about this, and unfortunately, those people watching wouldn't have been a part of that. But we've talked about this in the past, where people want coaches today, not bosses. Well, in a hierarchical structure, you're still my boss. Well, you can provide coaching, but in a circular, like the circle of organizational leadership, the cool model, that person, then their job is to coach and facilitate all those people for the greater good to achieve the objectives that are aligned from that sense of purpose. And that we can all collaborate for that, and we can then nurture new leaders and evolve and help each other to grow.
And one of the beauties in that, I think, is and you mention it in the book, is the front administration officer, or the director of first impressions.
Yeah.
In that situation, in that model, feels comfortable and is provided the opportunity to at times challenge the CEO or whoever that may be, the managing director, whatever it may be. In that model, it provides a lot more opportunities. I'm not saying that the traditional hierarchy doesn't have components of that, but it's I think a lot fewer than that circular concept.
Yeah, I in the book, because that was based on actually when I was leading a not-for-profit organization, and it's quite funny because I just bumped into the young lady's dad when I was up in Geraldton on the weekend, Shane, and I was saying, "How's Courtney going?" And he goes, "Oh, you wouldn't believe it, like, because she left our organization when she graduated her traineeship, and then went and started working for her dad's company as the director of first impressions for that company." And he said, like, she's running the show now, and and so when she was with us at the not for profit, she came in because one of her responsibilities as director of first impression was part of the safety culture we had, was the first aid box and simple things like that. And she said, "Our first aid box isn't up to standard, Dave. You need to go get a new one." And I'm like, "No, I don't." And she goes, "Well, it's not up to statute. Safety is one of our." And I said, "Yeah, I know, but you need to go get one." And I said, "So let's go, jump in the car." We went down to St. John's Ambulance, took my credit card, drove into there, and went in and said, "Excuse me, can you show Courtney where all the first aid kits are and everything like that?" And they said, "Oh, just through this way." And I said, "Great, here's the card. Just go pick whatever you think we need for our organization." Because she knew, like, and this was like at the time she was like a 17 or 18-year-old girl who had responsibility, but I wanted her to take ownership of it. It was her role and responsibility. And she was thinking of safety as our number one core value at the not-for-profit. And she was looking through the lens of safety to help engage, inspire, and develop tomorrow's leading workforce, which was the purpose of the organization. And if I'd said, "Okay, I'll take care of it," I would have disempowered her. And what I wanted someone to empower her and let her to do it. And it was almost like one of those Pretty Woman moments. It was just like, throw the card, take care of her, let her buy whatever she wants. It was kind of, and then when she finished her traineeship and she left, I said, "Now, Courtney, please understand, wherever you go, you can't just start walking into your boss's office and going, 'You need to go get a new,' because they may not think the same way that we do here." It turns out she ended up working for her dad, which was really cool. But once again, it's just cool. It is so cool to allow that person to take ownership of that work.
And even what you said around, if you just took it over, took the project, took the task over, that could have totally disempowered her. I feel like there's another scenario that I've experienced before, and it's not exactly that, but it's the leader or whoever it may be in that scenario who's had more experience, whatever it might be, is giving me step-by-step explicit instructions. And I think I look at that in the same lens, because what you're talking about, I feel like, and I feel like this relates to coming from a sporting background, not in that space anymore, but I feel like even from a sport coaching point of view, you've got a difference between explicit and implicit teachings or instructions or coaching, and being able to provide that goal. So like you said, this is what we'd like as an outcome, to be able to improve in that area. But how you do that, like, that's where you started providing the opportunity to make choices, to have their own experiences as well. And you know what the beautiful thing about that is I feel like those scenarios can end up providing the leader or whoever that may be a new learning or two along the way as well, because that person might bring something back that the rest of the team, the organization didn't actually know before as well.
Yeah, mate, 100%. And one of the things I have a constant debate with leaders in organizations is, like they complain about that people just don't think for themselves. And then I start questioning them about how they interact with their team and all that. And I said, well, I keep telling them what to do and telling them what to do, and they just don't think for themselves, and they have to, always have to keep telling them. I said, well, you're teaching them not to think for themselves, not to think for themselves, because you're not, asking the question. And I said, well, then they go to a decisive question. Well, what about this? It's either this or that question. Well, I said, now you're just giving them a choice of a coin toss. If you want to empower your people to pull out the best and help them to find out what they think, because you might know what you want them to think, but you don't know what they are thinking, is ask them questions that will get them to think. It's like, hey, in this situation, what do you reckon is the best course of action for us? Right? And well, we got to get it. And to go into detail with that particular story, what do you think we should do? And she said, well, you should go buy one. I said, why do you think I should buy one? Well, why should I go pick it? Well, because you're the boss and you're the credit card. I said, yeah, but you know what should be in the kit, don't you? Well, I'm kind of there. Well, how about if you go find out what's in there and come back and let me know, and then we'll go, and then we end up going and jumping in the car. But I needed to find out what she was thinking, where her thoughts were, so I could help her coach the gap between that thinking and the thinking that we wanted her to have, or for her to have, to empower her to make those decisions going forward in the future. Because I used to joke with leaders, there's an old day, Shawnee, this is probably before your time. Professor Gary and I, maybe in our time, we were told, you're paid to work, not to think around here. And I kind of joke with leaders today, and I'm saying, you should be going to your team and going, hey, you're paid to think around here, and while you're here, if you do some work, that'd be awesome. Right? Because most of the work that you're doing, we can automate. What I want to do is I want to capture that thinking. And you watched Duncan's on the Evolution of Business podcast that we did, right? And he talked about the four key, let's call them skill sets that humans will have that automation will not, or take for a long time for automation to catch up on. And it was creativity, curiosity, imagination, and intuition. Okay, so when we have those, how are we developing those four things in our team if we're telling them what to do all the time?
You're not. Like there's no opportunity for it, is there?
Right, and then we want to complain about the younger generation who have to be told what to do. No, you're just telling them what to do, and they're responding in kind. I talked to a whole bunch of dads too recently, and they were saying, and for your parenting podcast, which is really cool, by the way. And I was talking to them, and I said, when your kids come at you and they go, why, and you go, because Daddy said so. And these guys were all working in a business, and I kind of had a chuckle. I said, and those guys, the young fellas out on the floor there who are waiting for Daddy to tell them what to do, or they're doing it because Daddy said they had to do it. I said, you're raising those children and you're complaining about them. Don't do that to your kids. So when your kids ask why, you help them learn how to think and answer questions. Don't tell them because Daddy said so.
Totally. And just even looping in what Duncan was talking about around being able to ideate and play the what if game. That has been awesome. I've done it with mates. I've done it with colleagues. I've done it with Oscar. He comes to me and he's like, what if we could catch a rocket ship to the moon, Daddy? And instead of being like, well, yeah, you can if you do this, and this. What if we could catch it and it could also go underwater, Oscar? What if this? What if that? It's amazing the conversations and connections that can be created. And that's speaking from a personal parenting point of view, but I feel like it's got the ability to stretch far and wide in terms of our life and business and everything in between. It's awesome. I'd love to for a moment expand on the circle ecosystem, and we've been talking a lot about that already as well. But when I was reading it, it actually sort of sparked up a memory of, I was listening to an interview with the late great Nelson Mandela. He's obviously quite revered in leadership from sort of far and wider, I think, and that's just from my opinion and what I've read and what I've watched. I would have loved to have seen him and just listened to him live, because it just seems like there was just wisdom pouring out in that sense from his experiences. But but I feel like it also come from his upbringing. And he talked about in one interview that I was watching in particular, he learnt two key things from his father, who was, I believe, quite high up in their culture in terms of being a spiritual leader. And he talked about attending these spiritual or tribal council meetings with his father on a regular basis. And there were two things that he took away, but the one that stood out to me was that they always sat in a circle, and
Yes.
and for a long time he didn't understand it until he started applying it himself in different environments, and he learned pretty quickly how inclusive of an environment it can create and how encouraging it can be for everyone to have a say, and
Yeah.
to give everyone the opportunity to have a say as well. And that was huge. It's one of those aha moments when I was reading your book, and then I'd watched some other content of Nelson Mandela's, and when I was able to connect both of those, and I'm like, oh, it's huge. I see it in sport. I mean, the huddle
Yep.
of
Yeah.
sport across many years. And I suppose something that I'm now questioning is, I look at something like the education system, and this is up for debate, and I'd love to chat to more people about this, whoever may be watching as well, around how that's been set up, your average Joe classroom, in terms of the way that they set that up. It might be it might be something that is worth considering. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah,
throwing
I
that out
think
there.
in some
What are your
classrooms,
thoughts?
yeah, in some classrooms, the teachers do get the kids to sit in a circle and discuss and things like that.
Yeah.
There's always moments when those sort of things happen for sure. To the whole Nelson Mandela thing, just quickly, like I did when I created that circle of organizational leadership probably back in early 2002, working with a client, and I said, well, imagine if we could put the purpose in a rough drawing and all that sort of stuff. And that was just the way I led. I never really turned it into a model per se. It was just a philosophy, I guess, at that stage. But then when it came time to writing the book, I did a lot of research on tribal circles and stuff like that, and indigenous, talking circles, and how they would pass the stick around, and everyone would have a chance to have when they got the stick, they'd have their chance to have their say, and how these were really used to resolve conflict and all that too, because it forced people to be face to face with each other. And and I guess a lot of facilitators through the years have used what they call like fishbowl. You sit in the middle of the fishbowl, and to me it was just like there's so much power in that, facing each other, which you could do in the classroom 100%. But to really get people dialoguing and talking and communicating at a far better level, and to be able to see each other, and also from the leader, like when I stand up at the end of the boardroom table and there's this long boardroom table, and then everyone's looking at me, I'm the figurehead, right?
Yeah.
But in a round table, well, who's the figurehead? Who's the leader? Who's the in an organization where we're looking to do that? And you would have seen at the summit, I always refer to that kind of concept as the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah.
Right. And I know Shield's probably watching, listening to this, and he's going, oh God, Dave's going to do his Knights of the Round Table again.
Please.
But very quickly, so and that was one of the things that I really started diving into, is like, why did King Arthur have a round table? And you look in the movie or the books, TV show, wherever you want to find it, they talk about Arthur felt he had a round table because he wanted he felt for all men to feel like men, they must first be treated as equals. So he wanted to put there, so we all sat as equals around the table. Right, and in the middle of the table sat Camelot, and around the edge of the table was carved was the code of chivalry. So if you look at it, like, so that was, that was their values, their code of chivalry, and in the center was Camelot, their purpose. And so that when King Arthur would belly up the table, he would remove his crown and put it down, and he would then sit there as an equal amongst the knights, and he would facilitate the conversation. So the best idea for Camelot won, not the king's idea. And when you think about that from a values point of view, nobody got to sit, the knights didn't get invited to sit at the table unless they'd already demonstrated out in their adventures and their journeys that they lived by the code of chivalry of Camelot. So when you think of your values and you're bringing people into your organization, they shouldn't get a seat at your table unless they somehow either, they don't reject any of your values, let's put it that way at least, that they fit within your value structure, your code of chivalry of your organization, and they're there to serve your Camelot. And then when you belly up, you take your crown off and you sit there to coach and facilitate the dialogue to get the best idea winning. And then if everyone's facing each other, that means where everyone gets to have a talk and a chance to speak and share ideas and challenge and question in a very professional manner, where we're doing it through the lens of our values, and everyone's there because everyone's intent is, if someone's, really going strong on what they think is right they're doing it with the purest intent, because they're looking at what's in the middle, the greater good. So we shouldn't tear them apart for getting passionate and excited about it, but just because we don't agree. Whereas a lot of times we would, tear something down from being obstinate. But if we look at the intent of it, it's because they care.
This is so powerful. Like, I've got a bunch of notes here. I'm sure anyone that's watching is probably taken one or two as well. I've got so many more questions, but I reckon we might have to throw them into next week, because I'm actually getting a call from my beloved Jessica. So I might have to jump off and say hello to her.
We've been on for the half an hour.
This has been awesome. This has been cool.
Mate, thank you for being willing to do this online and live, and then hopefully we can have some other people as we get this thing moving. We'll do this on a regular basis every Wednesday at 1:00.
Definitely.
We'll be able to do it live and get other people's opinions and thoughts in here, and just hopefully the other people can walk away with some value and obviously contribute some value.
Yeah, I reckon anyone that's watching, let's jump in the comment section and just really fire up some conversation between now and next week as well, and see what comes up. And I know I'll be bringing some more hopefully epic questions coming into next week as well. But yeah, thank you again, Dave. This is such a cool opportunity, and I love this. Yeah, I love the fact that we can do this, and I feel like it's something that is only going to become more prominent as we move forward as well, out of what this year's been too. So it's been really fun. Been cool.
And selfishly, now we have a recording, because this was the intent was this, because we have these great conversations and never record the darn things.
I'll be taking notes all week, I reckon.
To Sheila and Professor Gary and anybody else who tuned into this, thank you so much, guys. Oh, Big Al, my big brother Al, he's there as well. So thanks to everyone who did tune into this. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you again next week at 1. Shawnee, looking forward to those questions, mate. Just keep them firing, buddy.
I will. Thank you so much, Dave, and thank you to everyone else, and look forward to chatting in the comments. See you later.
See you guys.